Mike Cotayo is a hilarious headlining comedian, stand-up comic. Very funny. He's so much more than that, though. Other than just making you laugh and kills on stage. He at 18 years old, he had a traumatic car accident. Disabled on his left side, his arm and his leg. Had issues with substance abuse in his 20s. He contracted HIV, but just completely turns it around and just is so funny and just fundamentally a funny person. He admits that he's not the funniest person in his family, but to me, I don't know his family, but he is very, very funny. And the story of, how he was told that he contracted HIV, how he first was introduced to comedy, his first time on stage. Very, very interesting, very entertaining. His view on discipline is also a new twist that I haven't heard before. And just generally speaking, with comedians and discipline, and the way I ask about way they write, and I got a bit indulgent at one point, and I actually wrote a joke a while ago and I bounced it off of him. It's not very professional of me. I apologize to anybody listening, but I did get his feedback. He was very nice. It's not a very good joke, but it's in the voice of another comedian, not mine. And I'll just tell you who it is now, Norm Macdonald. But it was a great conversation. Mike did indulge me in that one moment there, but you're going to really enjoy this conversation with Mike Cotayo. Thanks for listening. Hi. I'm Joey Pinz. People ask me, how did I lose 130 pounds? The quick answer is always discipline. I started my business, wasn't paying attention to my health, was eating too much, drinking too much sweets. My daughter was born. Next thing I know, I'm pre-diabetic, I have hypertension. I knew something had to change. Discipline. I, like many of you, have faced many challenges in your career, in your family, in your life, in your faith. How did you attack them? How did you approach them? How did you solve them, hopefully? It all had to have some degree of discipline. I'm also asked, how did you found and start a tech business that lasted over 25 years? Discipline. I was committed to it, enjoyed technology, didn't enjoy some aspects of it, but knew it was necessary. Discipline. Our podcast mission, how do we use discipline to better ourselves and society? Join me, please, as I talk to interesting people and discuss how they use discipline in their family and their passion and their careers and how it helped them. Our podcast vision, growth through learning from others. Joey Pinz Discipline Conversations. It'll be light and serious. Join us, please. Thank you for consideration. Very cool. Mike Cotayo, thank you so much for your time today. Really, really appreciate it. Has comedy been the best way for you to handle all the tragedy in your life?
That is, you're jumping right in there, Joey. I love it. You are jumping right in. Yes. I don't know if you've heard or seen everything I've been through, but without comedy, I'd probably be dead right now. Like, it's the one thing that keeps me going. It keeps me resilient. It keeps me dedicated to making life work. I'm like the ultimate optimist. I'm always looking for, so on the bright side, my wife kind of hates that expression because she's always like, I hate this. I'm like, well, on the bright side, look at this. She does not find that amusing at all.
Well, it sounds like you're the pure definition of an optimist, and perhaps she's cynical?
We've been friends for about 17 years, and we've been married for 2 and dating for 5. So she is the best opposite of me. She's the person who, she makes me laugh like nobody else. And so that's why I married her, right? If you can make a comedian laugh, you're golden.
Absolutely. As a kid, whenever I saw, I think I'm just a little bit older than you. I'm 54 or 53. I forgot. Anyway, when I would see Letterman laugh, that was it.
Uh-huh.
Whenever he would laugh, because he's the trying to make everybody. Whenever he would break down, or whenever Johnny Carson would break down as a kid, that was something special. That was really something special.
Right, right.
So at 18
I'm
months, sorry.
I'm a good friend of mine is the guy who used to book all of the comedians on the Letterman show.
Really?
So yeah, Eddie Brill, he's a great guy, and he has so many Letterman stories that it's incredible to work with him.
I'm sure he was a bit of a curmudgeon. Talk about your cynic.
I wasn't going to say that on the air, but yes, there are a lot of those stories.
I've seen him live 5 times, twice at NBC, twice at CBS, and he used to have these annual kind of comedy shows at um, Radio City Music Hall. But he just made me laugh. I mean, back then, in high school, he was on at 12:30, so I'd be in high school. We didn't VCRs were just coming out, so you couldn't record stuff and watch it later. You had to watch
Right?
it live, and Johnny Carson had 20 million people watching him. I mean, that's Joe Rogan has what, 12 million now? I mean, it's very different times.
It is. It really is. Like the world is so big right now that finding your niche and making it is a lot harder than it used to be.
Absolutely. So, Mike, you're 18 months old, and you have a horrific car accident, and that's where things kind of lay things out for the rest of your life. Obviously, you don't. Do you remember that? How could you?
I remember some things. Like it's weird. I remember having an out of body
Mm.
experience. It's bits and pieces. I remember waking up from the coma and looking at my mother and just seeing her. That's what I remember. But other than that, nothing.
And she carried a lot of guilt, of course. You were on her lap, I believe,
Yeah.
in the car, and you went through the window. Everybody was okay, and you lived, but you
You did your research, Joe.
well, uh, yeah. But the guilt is your mother still with us? Does she still harbor that?
My mom passed last
Yeah.
year, so it's been a very difficult year. And like, comedy is the one thing that, my mom and I were very similar, so we fought a lot,
Mm.
but comedy was the one thing my whole family had in common. And she did feel a lot of guilt, but she was strong. The doctors tried to convince her to put me into a home, and she was like, no, that's my son, I'm taking him home. And she stayed fast to that belief that I was going home, because they must have said this like 5, 10 times. And she was 23. I could not imagine being that age and being
Mm.
so strong and saying, no, I'm doing this.
I mean, not only did
And so my mom was my
yeah,
hero,
I mean,
really.
not only did she not put you in a home, Mike, but she put you on the 3rd floor, right? You had to walk down. I mean, so everybody who doesn't know, you have limited mobility on your left side.
Right, right.
So walking down 3
Yeah,
flights.
and yeah, well, I'm counting the
I
basement,
see.
right? Because in stand up, it's always funnier if you exaggerate. So I used to do second floor, and then one show I was like, let me just add a flight of stairs. In 3 months, it'll be seventh floor walk up. So yeah, but I did. I ran up and down the stairs, and I learned how to walk up and down. And so I navigate stairs pretty well. The only problem is now that I'm old, my knee locks. And
Uh,
so I'll be walking down the stairs and my knee will lock and I'll just go, whoo, and I'll have to stop myself from flying down the stairs head first.
wow. And I don't want to dwell too much, but I mean, you had some substance abuse issues. You had, your 20s were a little bit rough, like all of us trying to find ourselves. You're a social worker. You contracted HIV. I mean, Mike, life has not been easy, but you turn it around and you have comedy now. You're a headliner. It's so inspiring.
Thank you, thank you. It took a lot of work, and I would say so. Before I got HIV, I won Amateur Night at the Apollo, the non-televised version. So I won that, and comedy was still like a hobby for me.
Mm.
So when I was infected with HIV, I thought my life was over. This was in the early 2000s. The medication had just come out like 8 years before, and so people were getting used to being healthy again. And I worked with HIV, so I saw sick drug addicts all the time, and I thought this is going to be my life. And so I really I decided then and there comedy made me happy. I'm going to devote my life to comedy, and I took all of the all of the energy I put into addiction, and I turned it over to comedy. And within 2 3 years, I went from open micer to headliner. Like I had 45 minutes or more worth of material that I could go on the road and just do. And I also was very good at crowd work. So I love crowd work, and crowd work will never get me a TV deal, but it's the thing I love.
Well, you're very good at crowd
And
work. I saw some of your special, but you've been on the Colin Quinn show, right? You've done some.
no, no, I did a TV, I did a web series where I played Colin Quinn's
Is that
stalker. He's a beautiful human being. I love him. I don't have enough nice things to say about him, but it was fun shooting that show. It was also very scary because in New York City, there's this street called Minetta Lane. And are you from New York,
Yes, I
Joey?
am. New Haven, actually. That's
Do you know Minetta Lane? It's on. It's right by the Comedy
I don't
Cellar.
know it. I don't know that area. No.
Okay, so it's this very. It starts on Thompson, it ends on 6th Avenue, and there's a huge downslope. So they put me in a wheelchair and they let me go at the top of this hill. And there was a guy at the bottom ready to catch me in the wheelchair. And I had to do 3 takes of that. And I thought I was going to pull out to my death. They did not have a stunt double for me.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of seeing Colin live once or twice, and yeah, he is remarkable. And do you remember your first joke, Mike?
No. No, I do not. I remember my first time on stage. I'm 46 right now, and I did a show last night, and I still feel like I'm in my
Mm.
20s. And someone came up to me after the show, after I performed. I was getting a bite to eat at the bar, and he came up to me and he was like, you I don't usually go for older guys, but you're really attractive. I'm like, thank you. And I'm thinking, when the hell did I become an older guy? Like this is really hurtful to my ego.
That's what you took from that, the older guy part, not I
Yes,
say, not the compliment of being attractive.
not that someone found me attractive, but now I'm old.
I say, I say. Well, the 50s aren't so bad, Mike. They're not so bad. And the first time you're on stage, like tell me about you have all this trauma in your life, and you're going through relationships, and you're going through, you're kind of rebelling, and substance, and like why go to comedy? What pushed you there?
Comedy is like that lover that will never turn you
Hmm.
away. No matter what you're going through, she's always there to pick up the pieces. And I had I had a friend. He was a roommate for a while, and that he ate me out of house and home. He was another comic, um, really talented guy, Joseph Rocha, and he passed away. But before he passed away, really unexpectedly, I left stand up. So I'm sorry, I'm all
That's
over the
okay.
place. I was professional from like 2004 to 2007. I had a lot of good things happen to me. My career was blowing up, and I started getting really anxious, and I started having panic
Hmm.
attacks every time I would go on stage. I'd be fine once I got on stage and told my first joke, but I would start to freak out. I'm also a nervous pooper, so I poop 5 times before a show.
Wow.
I still do that. That's a tradition. But so I ended up making the decision to leave stand up in 2007, and I left for about 8 years, 8 9 years. I came back in 2016, and I've sort of been performing, doing the road, doing started back with open mics, then started getting paid shortly thereafter, started going here and there, staying close to home. But now I'm looking to start a nationwide tour come the new year. I'm planning some things, and but anxiety is a real it can really stop you in your tracks if you let it. And I wish I just had someone to say, stay with it, you can do this, just breathe through it. And I had other bookers who believed in me, who kept on booking me for a year. So in 2007, I said, okay, I'm quitting, but if someone books me for a show, I won't turn it down.
Huh.
I will say yes graciously, but I won't go out there and try to find gigs. And for about a year, I got consistent work. And then those just dried up. And when I came back, I ran another friend from stand up who has recently passed. Um, Poppy Kramer, she was very funny. She used to work at the Duplex, and I stopped in one day, and she goes, "Hey, what's up? How have you been? I heard you're in LA. I heard you're doing big things." I'm like, "Wow, I'm glad the rumor mill is treating me so well." I was sitting at home doing
Huh.
nothing.
By the way, Mike, I think I have the name of your next special. Nervous Pooper.
Yes, nervous pooper. That would be great. Um, I'm a new driver, and so it takes me 20 minutes to a half hour to leave the house
Mm.
every time I go somewhere I'm not familiar with. Because I get ready to leave, I stop at the door, go, nope, I gotta go poop, and I will go back to the bathroom. And
Hmm.
anyway,
Has that
this is a crappy conversation. I'm sorry.
ah yes.
That's what it
That's
is.
good. That's good. That's good. Um, has anxiety always been with you, or is it something new? Was it with you in your youth?
I think anxiety is one of those things that everybody gets. I think it's kind of normal, and to the level it is high. I remember having a panic attack when I was in my
Hmm.
teens, and I remember breathing through it and dealing with it and doing okay. And then, like being a social worker, I learned all these skills to help with my anger, with my anxiety, and I would keep them up. But really, the level. So when my anxiety got really bad was after I did the Opie and Anthony show. And they were a really popular radio show in the
Well,
early 2000s,
yes.
late 90s. And I was performing at this club in Jersey for the Short Bus Comedy Tour. And I the show was over. I was online for the bathroom. This guy came up to me while I was online, told me, "Man, you were great. I heard you on the radio. I drove 2.5 hours to see you. Thank you so much." And I was of course flattered. I was very flattered, and I said, "Oh, thank you so much for coming out. I'm glad you enjoyed it." I went to the bathroom. I did my business, and then it dawned on me that's a 7 to 8 hour commitment.
Wow.
That's 2.5 hours there, 2 hours for the show, 2.5 hours back, and plus other stuff. Like, so I was like a full-time job to that guy. And that's what that I couldn't wrap my head around that.
Hmm.
And so that coupled with people stopping me on the street in New York, and like it wasn't within my realm of, I'm a disabled kid who grew up with low self-esteem. It was taking me out of my comfort zone, and I couldn't handle it.
And I re-listened to the Open Anthony. Patrice O'Neill was there. He was giving you great. Of course, he's not with us. The great.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Patrice O'Neill and Ralphie May loved
Yes.
me. My target audience is dead fat guys. They freaking love. I'm trying so hard not to curse. You have
Go
no
ahead,
idea.
curse.
I
Oh
can
yeah,
curse.
yeah.
They loved me, Joey. It was
Yeah, go ahead, curse.
all right.
Patrice O'Neill and
Well,
Opie and
shit.
Anthony, you were great on it. You slayed.
Thank you. Thank you.
And it was really that kind of brought you to another level of popularity that you were just uncomfortable with.
Right. And I think had I processed kind of what if I was more comfortable in my own skin, it wouldn't have blown me so
I
much.
say. Hmm. And let's just talk briefly about you ended up. I remember in New York City in the '80s, right? I'm from New Haven. We would come up to the city. My all my people are in Queens and the Bronx, and we would go into Manhattan. The '80s was the rise of rap and just HIV was everywhere, and
Mhm.
everybody was scared of it. It was kind of made fun of the music, and then it got serious. So you contracted it, but you tell this unbelievable story how they gave you a negative diagnosis and then sorry they got a fax with it. I don't want to kill the punchline here, but the way you were informed of it was horrible. And then did that shape you? Did that put you in any direction?
Um, so the story you're referring to is when I went to get. I was part of a study that took. I'm bisexual. I was mostly gay back then. My wife refers to it as my gay days, and and so I was part of the study where they tested me for HIV every 6 months, and I went back April 2002 and to get the results of a test. And they told me when I went in for the test, they said, "Well, you're negative." I was like, "Oh my God, thank God." They put down the folder. I looked at the folder, and they were giving me the test from November of last year. I'm like, this is the last test I took. This is the wrong test. And counselor mistake, which is what I call her, she goes, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Let me go find out where your right test is. I'll be right back." And so she left. Meanwhile, a tape recorder's running, and so I when I'm nervous, I start talking
Okay.
nonstop in weird voices just to entertain myself. So when they must have listened to this tape, they heard me go, I'm trying to buy that. So, so then I get in there and I'm still there. I'm like pacing back and forth. She comes in, she goes, "We still don't have the results. Don't worry, I'm sure it's fine." And I'm like, okay. So don't worry, I'm sure it's fine. You should never say that in a medical office anywhere. So it was not fine. She came back like 40 minutes later and said, "I'm sorry, we have the results." And I looked at the test before she told me, and I just go, "Oh my God." And I started freaking out. But I think everything happens for a reason, and I think that really helped to get me sober. That helped to get me on the path of stand up as a career. That helped me to kind of clean my life up.
Hmm.
And I'm not I'm lucky that HIV is not what it once
Right.
was. I am, as long as I take medication, I can't infect anyone. As long as my blood stays clean, which that's so weird. Like to say my blood stays clean makes me sound like I'm dirty. But you know, I can fuck my wife without a condom, which is great when you're trying to make a baby,
Yes.
which is which is hard to do when you're in your mid to late 40s. I don't recommend it. Um, so we did not make a baby, but we have a beautiful daughter I'm raising with her and her ex husband, who I affectionately refer to as my brother husband because he lives in our basement. So we're a very modern family.
Yes, yes, yes. Very progressive. When I heard that the ex-husband and how it kind of went down was interesting. The separation, a misplaced text, I believe, and
Yeah,
the good news is that the child's being reared by three happy that parents that get along.
right,
That's
right.
the good news.
And my we me and him get along so well. My wife is like kind of upset about it. She's like, because we gang up on her sometimes.
Very interesting. Very, very interesting. And so it's a horrible story once that prognosis is done, but obviously you come out of it well. Could you be the comedian you are now without all of this trauma, like the anxiety, the disability, the HIV, the
I without the HIV,
okay.
definitely. Without the drug use, definitely. Without the disability, probably not.
Mm,
But um, I I am not the funniest person in my family.
hmm,
I'm fully aware of that. I don't mind saying it. I'm I think there are tons of people who are way funnier than me. I just work at it. I've worked at learning what makes people laugh. I've worked at learn what words are funny, what words are not funny. If you're not a comedian, you would be amazed how long we spend forming each joke and making sure each word is perfect, and then just throwing out the script and going off script all the time. So you asked me about 20 minutes ago about my first set, and I never told you about it.
right.
So
Go back.
my first my first set was at Boston Comedy Club. I remember the it was a like it wasn't an open mic. It was like I was on a show where you bring people, and so I believe I blew the light, meaning I went over my time. They give you 5 minutes. I must have done like 7. At one point, they're flashing this blue light to get me off stage. I'm like, oh, look, a blue light's flashing. There must be a blue light
It
special
worked. Right.
somewhere. And I was just, from that moment, I loved it. I love being on stage, and I did it every once in a while. I didn't commit myself to it fully until I became infected with HIV.
Hmm. And talk to me about your joke writing process. Like, how does a joke start with you?
It depends. Like, so, my favorite thing to do is write with other people because you get your creative juices flowing. You will be talking and you'll come up with stuff. And when I write with other comedians, I go, this would fit you really well. Or they say, I thought of this tag for one of your jokes. So as comedians, we're very giving to one
Mm.
another. And that's what I love about it. I love the camaraderie. Um, the people when I was coming up, the people in the open mic scene that I was in were like, I still think about those people to this day. The ones who made it and the ones who
Mhm.
did it. Like, my contemporaries were people like Eric Andre, Baron Vaughn, Michelle Buteau. Gina Brion was a really good friend of mine. She is getting a lot of success right now. When she broke up with her boyfriend, I moved into the room she
Mm.
had because it's a very small community. She lived with him, and I moved into the room she dedicated to Mariah
Oh.
Carey. So when I went to view the room, there were posters of Mariah Carey all over. So much so, if Gina has this as one of their old jokes, so much so that if Mariah Carey was ever abducted, she would be the first suspect. Like, that's one of her jokes. So um, it was intense. Like, I walked in, it was wall to wall Mariah, and I totally made fun of her for that for like 2 years. So
You mentioned the word tag before. Explain what a tag is in comedy.
so uh, joke stand up jokes are very formulaic originally. So it's setup, punchline, tag, and maybe another tag and an act out. So what that means is, um, I'll do one of my classic jokes. Dating is hard for me. I never know if they like. That's the setup. Dating is hard
Right.
for me. The punchline is, I never know if they like me for me or they're just in it for the parking
Yeah.
spaces. That's the
Great
punchline.
joke.
The tag is, I get my most dates around the holidays. And that's a laugh. Another tag would be, Black Friday, I'm the sexiest guy in the
Say.
neighborhood. That's another tag. And then an act out would be, uh, come on, baby, you want a good parking space? So that would be acting out what would happen.
Hmm. And you mentioned before that sometimes when you're writing with people, and sometimes you hear the joke that you write in somebody else's voice.
Hmm. Yeah. Like, so someone would be, this happens all the time. Like, I'll be on, someone will be on stage and I'll be listening to their material and they'll say a punchline and I'll come up with another punchline that I think is funny. And I will go up to them very timid usually and say, I thought of a tag for you. Would you mind if I give it to
Huh.
you? Because all comedians have like, we all have self-esteem problems, right? That we wouldn't be doing this if we did it. So I don't ever want to offend someone and go, I thought of this funny tag for you, because I don't want to insult their joke. But usually people are very willing to listen, and I've gotten people who gave me tags that are awesome and then tags that are not great for me. Not that they're not funny, but I can't deliver them. So one of my favorite tags was um, there's a comedian by the name of Jessica Curson. She's very popular right
Hilarious.
now. Jessica is my favorite comedian by far, and we started together. We ran in different circles, but we started around the same time. And so when we used to perform at the Laugh Factory together, she came up to. I used to have this joke. What else can I tell you guys about myself? I'm gay. I know what you're thinking. Great, another gay cripple comic. Jesus Christ, not another one. And so she came up to me one day and she goes, I thought of this tag for you. And I go, okay. And she goes, and some of you are probably thinking, wait, he's gay and disabled? Does that make him a fruit or a vegetable? And that was the funniest thing anyone could have. Right? It's a knee slapper. I am so upset I'm married to a woman because I can no longer use that joke.
That's tremendous. That is absolutely tremendous. You know, I wonder if you'll indulge me. I every once in a while I'll just think of something and I'll just kind of write something down. And I actually kind of wrote a joke, Mike, and in Norm Macdonald's voice. I just kind of thought up this joke and I said, this is a joke Norm Macdonald would say. Of course, you know Norm. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so
Yeah.
if you'll indulge me, you I can't believe I'm doing this, but he would do the news on SNL, and sometimes his joke were
Right.
very much. He had that show on Netflix where he kind of did like these kind of topics, and so he'd be like, you know, uh, today a Connecticut man was mauled by a bobcat. A bobcat mauled a Connecticut man. Ironically, his name was Bob. So that's what that's what I came up with. I just kind of see him doing that, and I'm sure I don't have any tags for it, but it's just something I had. I wonder if that's similar when you're writing with people and you think of a joke and you hear it in somebody else's voice.
Yeah, yeah, that happens. And then there's just these things that come to me, like a joke I love, which uh, d- I was at my parents' house during the summer last year, and I thought it, and I leaned into my wife and told her the joke, and she started laughing. I'm like, that's a good one. It's Domestic violence is a serious issue, and I thought if I ever make it as a comedian, I'm gonna open up a DV shelter. I'm gonna call it Black Eyes Matter.
That's, that's pretty good. That's
Yeah, and so I love that joke, and like the woke crowd doesn't like it, but I don't care. I'm not their cup of tea.
funny is funny.
Right,
Funny is
right.
funny. On the podcast, Mike, we talk. I lost a bunch of weight. People also ask me how I did it. Like there's some secret, and I just say discipline. My doctor told me I wasn't going to see my daughter graduate. I started a business back in the '90s. I was to take care of myself. I blew up, and um, I wonder how discipline plays a role in your life. I mean, as a child, with what you had, did you think of yourself as a disciplined person?
Not as a kid, and like if you ask me now, I would say no. But everybody, yeah, because I'm a goofball. Like I am the one who I never grew up. Like I am playful. I still I fart and I go, oh my god, what was that? Like And and, and Jeanette, my wife, yells at me, "You can't do that if you do it intentionally." I'm like, "Oh my goodness!" So I'm a goofball, and when I turned 40, one of my cousins, who's 10 years younger than me, put a Facebook post up, and she goes, to my cousin who never grew up, and she put up all these pictures, me sitting in a child's bassinet, me like hanging out. So I've learned not to take life too seriously, but when
Hmm.
I'm committed to something, I'm very disciplined. Like with the art of
Right.
stand up, I'm extremely disciplined. I will become laser focused and keep on doing things to propel my career because I, you know, I don't want it to come to an end. I don't want to peter out this time. I don't want to have an anxiety attack and give it all up. I've come too far again to do that. And I'm also like my mom believed in me.
Hmm.
So I'm in a way I'm doing this for her memory, you know.
How noble. Can a stand up comedian be undisciplined? Is it possible?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and the ones who are undisciplined, I'm undisciplined on stage. Like I will just
Interesting.
abandon my jokes and
Huh.
talk to the audience more often than not. So I wish I was more disciplined on stage, but for the most part, I'm pretty much disciplined anywhere else.
Hmm.
So I think comics are for the undisciplined ones, it's hard to make a career out of it,
Right.
right? Because your job is to perform anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour and a half. So you have anywhere from 23 hours and 45 minutes to 21 hours left in a day. What are you going to do? You smoke a lot of pot, you eat a lot of Cheetos, you watch TV, like, or you get a career, you push yourself, you go places you wouldn't expect to go. And that's the type of person I hope to be, the one who keeps on following.
Hmm. How is your anxiety these days?
Uh Better. I'm not freaking out as much. I'm excited by everything I'm doing. I have a lot of good things in the works. I have a production team behind me who's looking out for my career. I have friends who believe in me. And I wanna rise up and take people with me this time. So, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, and that leads to this. Mike Cotayo, what motivates you?
Um, I just love making people laugh,
Hmm.
and I love seeing joy in people. I hate dealing with people's problems, but I
Right.
love making them laugh, and that motivates me. Every time I get a laugh, it motivates me.
Because you
I
link.
just got booked to do I just got booked to perform on a swingers party in December, and then he texted me last night and said I could get you on another event next week. I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. So,
What's a swingers party?
do you know what swingers are?
I do.
So, uh, a party where people go and swing and do their sex stuff,
Yeah.
and I'm the entertainment.
Interesting. Wow, I didn't know. I haven't been to a swingers party since, the 90s, but, I it's actually I didn't realize there's entertainment there. That's very interesting. Now you mentioned
Yeah,
that's ve
this
sorry.
the couple who runs it books comedians to come for the
Ah,
event.
oh, it's like a big kind of extravaganza. Very cool.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
link laughter to happiness. So when you make people laugh, you're making them happy. Is that correct?
I think so. I think be it's hard to be pissed and laughing at the same
Right.
time.
Yeah, and we could all use
There's a lot of research that backs that up too. I'm not gonna get into it, but
sure.
there is.
Yeah, and just happiness just promotes healthiness. And so how do you measure success, Mike?
I measure success by happiness,
Mm,
but I think you're talking about with the logistical things. If I can keep a roof over my head, I'm
mm.
successful, right? Over my family's head, I'm successful. But other than that, I I I want to I want to be famous,
Hmm.
and I feel weird saying that, but I want to be famous enough where I don't have to worry about money.
Mm.
I don't want to be. I want to have anonymity, but I want to be famous enough where I can take care of the people I love and not worry about paying bills.
Yeah, anonymity and financial freedom are quite a combination.
Right?
Quite a combination. Yeah. Uh Mike Cotayo, thank you so much for doing this. I was so excited when I found out that you were going to be here. I can't wait to see you on the road. I've watched so much of you and on video. I know you're. How can we get in touch with you? You're releasing some dates. You're going to be touring a lot in the end of the year next year.
Yeah, so I you could follow me on Instagram, funny man Mike Cotayo. Cotayo is a hard name to spell, so I'm trying to figure out how to shorten it. It might become Mike Coyote because
Yeah.
someone nicknamed me the Coyote of comedy. I like that. Um, and Instagram, TikTok. If you go to Linktree, Funny Man Mike, you'll find all my links there. If you want to support me, just mail me some
Nice.
money. I appreciate that.
Cotayo is spelled Cotayo. Cotayo.
Yes, Cotayo.
Cotayo, anybody listening. Mike, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to hopefully meeting one day on the road and having a cup of coffee.
I would love that, Joey. Thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure.
You be well. Take care. Thanks. Thank you for listening and or viewing Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations. Please share this episode with one or two of your friends who you think may benefit from the episode. Our website, www.joeypins.com. There you'll find lots of resources and you could join our mailing list. Please follow us on all our social media, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Podcast information, the video version of our podcast is on YouTube. Please subscribe. Audio is on all major podcasting platforms. Please follow them. And if you like it, please consider giving 5-star rating. Would really appreciate that. Would you like to financially support the podcast? You can go to our Patreon site. Consider $5, $10, or $20 a month. There's all kind of plans that we have there. There's like a one-time payment. What is this podcast episode worth to you? $25, $50, $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000. You be the judge. You can go to our PayPal account to do that as well. Thank you again for listening or watching Joey Pin's Discipline Conversations.